So here's our agenda for today. Why do SSO and what are its benefits? We'll go through a quick demo on how we can actually set up Duo SSO in 5 minutes. And that's right, you heard me right, 5 minutes. We'll also have a quick review of our new features. And then the second part of the webinar will be on Passwordless, which will be presented by my colleague, Jeff. On that section, we're gonna review why Duo Passwordless, and we'll go through a Passwordless demo as well. And then we'll finally discuss Duo SSO plus Passwordless. We'll finish off with questions from the audience, but you can also pop the questions in Q&A. All right, so just before we kick off, I can pass it on to Laura, who can actually start a poll if you want to do that. Sorry, Kim, did you want to go ahead with the?
Hi, sure.
Just give it a 60 seconds and then we'll continue.
So you're going to see a question on your screen. Are you using single sign-on today? And you can go on ahead and answer that, and then we'll pull the poll down once we have enough answers.
Umo, you can just go ahead.
Yeah, we can go ahead. Okay, cool. All right, so all creatures of habit and comfort, and bad passwords are habits to let go. So easy to reuse a password multiple times, considering the amount of service we access, and it's hard to manage those passwords. So we're going to talk about why do a single sign-on. So we've got 3 different benefits of why we use Duo single sign-on. I'm going to start with the first one, which is on about save time and money. So how do we save time and money? So let's look at one of it, single set of credentials. So we're simplifying access to those applications. Duo SSO offers the end users an easy and a consistent login experience. Users don't have to remember multiple credentials, be username or passwords, so they've only got one. And with those one set of credentials, you can get access to multiple Duo protected applications that you've been authorized to access. The second benefit we've got there is a self-service. So we offer several capabilities, and one of them is that device enrollment, where we allow users to add themselves into Duo, walks them through setting up a device for 2-factor authentication. And in one of those services is also self-service password resets. I'm sure we've all experienced situations where your password has expired, and for you to reset it, you need to call IT. So Duo single sign-on does support expired Active Directory passwords, and this kind of self-service helps save admin and help desk time. And as a user, you get frustrated now that you have to wait for IT to reset your passwords. And for IT, you've got that additional tickets to support the resets as well. So having that self-service capabilities and letting the users do it themselves does save time and money as well. And then finally, we've got beginning that passwordless journey. So having that Duo SSO, we believe that enables the company to start passwordless journey, saving even more time for the end users and administrators as well. The second benefit we've got there is easy to deploy and use. And a lot of our customers agree with this on us. A lot of the applications, a lot of the integrations we've got and how we integrate with those applications is just that ease to deploy and use. You get minutes to configure new applications, add new users, and like I said, a testament from a number of our customers that it's easy to deploy and manage, configuring the apps and having that simplified environment. We offer an intuitive user experience for configuring those popular applications with Duo Admin Panel. So we provide SAML connectors for enterprise cloud applications like Salesforce, which we're actually going to show you later on. We've got Amazon Web Services, and also provide generic connectors with the ability to provide your own SAML metadata to connect to just about any app that supports SAML 2.0. We've also got that centralized web portal called Duo Central, and this is where end users can either access the applications either directly or through Duo Central. And Duo Central is a cloud-based Duo-hosted portal that provides end users with a single page from which they can access permitted applications. And if I can add to this as well, which I think would resonate with a lot of us, we've got so many applications which we have to remember, bookmark, and all those things. So with Duo Central, with Duo Single Sign-On and Duo Central, your users just need to remember one username, one password, and one website, which is a Duo Central, to access all the applications. All right, the third benefit we've found and our customers have experienced as well is it's seamless and secure. So we offer that identity agnostic implementation. So whatever you've got, we will support it. So it means you can easily integrate with third-party identity providers like Microsoft, Okta, Ping, among others. And we integrate easily with Duo MFA as well, which is one of our main products as well. So it integrates with Duo MFA. And finally, we've got that holistic access security, which is basically not just providing you with that single sign-on, but you're going further to verify the users and the devices as well. So it's designed to complement the MFA solution. So you've got that verification of users, and then you've got device trust and access control. So where before granting access to the application, you're verifying the user, you're verifying the device posture and access to the applications. And only once they've all been verified, and only then do you then grant access. This is where now you can see that holistic access security. So it's not just one portion, it's going around and making sure that everything's being verified before the user get access to. Okay, now we've shared the key benefits of Duo Single Sign-On. Why don't I actually take you through a demo of a solution? So we'll show you how an IT admin can configure a popular SAML cloud application, in this instance, a Salesforce, using a named app integration, a feature of Duo SSO. All right, just bear with me for a second while I get that up and running.
The first step is to open the Duo admin panel. Here you click on Applications to add a new named integration for Salesforce. Click on the second instance to protect Salesforce. You need to then open, in a separate browser, the Salesforce admin panel. Here you'll go down to Company Settings and then My Domain in order to capture your custom Salesforce domain. Staying on the Salesforce admin panel, click on Identity and then Single Sign-On Settings. Click New to create a new SSO configuration and type in your custom Salesforce domain in the Entity ID field. Give your configuration a unique name. Next, we're going to go back into the Duo admin panel, and from there we're going to copy the issuer metadata URL from that panel and paste it in the corresponding Salesforce field. Next, you need to download the identity provider certificate from the Duo admin panel and upload it to the Salesforce configuration page. Next, you'll copy the login URL as well as the logout URL from the Duo admin panel and paste it into the Salesforce configuration page. After that, you will save the Salesforce configuration. You then need to copy the Salesforce login URL and paste it into the Duo panel configuration page. You'll also copy the entity ID from the Salesforce configuration page and paste it into the Duo panel configuration page. On the Duo admin panel, name the application something that your end users and administrators would recognize. This name will be displayed to end users when they receive a Duo push on their mobile phone for authentication. Save the Duo application configuration. Next, we'll ensure users can access the application from both Salesforce, which is the service provider initiated login, and Duo Central, the IDP initiated login. In the Duo admin panel, add the newly created application as an application tile on the Duo Central application launch page. So now you've added the tile. Now in Salesforce, click on My Domain, then click the Edit button next to the authentication configuration. You will now see the authentication configuration listed in the Authentication Services section, so click the checkbox to enable it on the user login page. It would have the same name as the unique name you had given the configuration earlier. Click Save. Now that configuration is complete, we will test the service provider initiated logins from Salesforce and the Duo identity provider initiated logins. First, we'll log out. Then we are going to now log in using that Duo SSO login. This is the custom Salesforce login page. You're going to see the link to log in with your new SSO configuration, and you're directed to Duo SSO for authentication. Authenticate with a user account that is in Salesforce. And you will see that this logs in that user, and it works. Next, we will also be demoing. After this, after you get to the final page, you're going to see that you land on the Salesforce application. And next, we're going to look at how Duo's identity provider initiated login works. The first step will be to authenticate to your custom Duo Central login page. So through the standard Duo MFA, here we select Push Authentication to authenticate that user. And at that point, the user will be able to successfully get to Duo Central and see the tile that was created, Duo Dev Salesforce in this case. You simply click the tile, clicking on that application to begin the login process. The user is authenticated to Duo SSO, so they have to perform MFA. And now they are able to access Salesforce app. That's it.
Okay, I hope you found that useful and you could see what I was talking about in terms of ease of use and how to set up an integration, an application with Duo SSO. Right, let's continue. All right, so next I'm going to talk about Duo SSO new features. And one of it is multiple Active Directories as authentication sources. So we've seen many companies in similar industries or in a lot of industries serving the same or adjacent customer markets either merge or acquire. So in those scenarios, they're going to be at least 2, if not more, user directories. And I'm sure you can resonate with a lot of customers having multiple Active Directories. And it's important to make it as seamless as possible to bring in additional directory forests together so employees can access the applications they're authorized to use by role. So to ease that impact to the organization, Duo Single Sign-On now supports multiple distinct Active Directory forests, allowing that deployment of SSO to your entire organization for improving security posture. Duo SSO also offers easy and secure access to a lot applications. So these capabilities, again, saves time for the administrators to implement this configuration. The second feature we've got is expired Active Directory password reset. We've seen reports show that at least 40% of help desk calls are related to password resets. And like I mentioned when I started, we're all users to these applications and to the systems as well. And we've come across issues where you've got an expired password. It's either it's either at night or over a weekend, and you can't really do anything unless you create a ticket and help desk support or IT admin sort of gets in there and resets your passwords. So in addition to that, we also see costs. We know how important it is to make user experience as seamless as possible. So when passwords do expire, we don't want those workers to have to go to the IT team to get help and interrupt them from their work. So we've launched expired Active Directory password reset. So users of the Duo Single Sign-On can now reset expired Active Directory passwords by themselves instead of relying on IT or even the help desk team. So to me, this is a favorite. It's a win-win situation for both the IT admins and the users. Providing end users that self-service options reduces the time, the expense, and the productivity losses incurred by IT and help desk teams as well. And again, I'm just going to repeat this again because we really believe in this. Like everything with Duo integration, it focuses on easy lifting, not heavy lifting. So when you meet all the requirements to enable that expired Active Directory password resets, it's just a matter of just selecting a radio button and you're good to go. Okay, and that's for me in regards to the Duo Single Sign-On. I will pass it on to Jeff to take us on the journey of Passwordless. Over to you, Jeff.
Thank you. You can hand the presenter to me.
Yep.
Okay, so welcome to this section on Duo's passwordless. So we are going to talk about the problems with passwords. So we've seen these statistics many times, right? Passwordless are cumbersome and costly. It costs us a lot of time to actually manage help desk tickets because we are actually doing a lot of password reuses. We forget the passwords, applications that are accessed infrequently. That's a high probability that a user would forget their password. And it's also a poor user experience. You know, we have complex password. You need to have special characters. You need to have numbers. And what a lot of our end users do is they actually increment, right? Today I'm using password 123. When the password resets come about, I have to increment it. I'll add a 4 behind. I'll add a 5 behind. And that actually causes a lot of instability in terms of how we actually manage our password, and it's a very poor user experience. And it's definitely easy to compromise because users are using that same password across multiple different applications. And we've seen this because a lot of data breaches, 81% of these breaches involve weak or stolen credentials, according to Verizon's data breach report. So the promise of passwordless is to essentially reduce user friction. And what we mean by that is users will now authenticate with a simple gesture instead of remembering something that's complex. And when there's no password to remember or to reset or to rotate, that actually makes the life of users a lot easier. And you are experiencing this already on your mobile phones. Today, if you're using an iOS device, an Android device, you can actually use a Face ID, or you can actually use the biometrics of your fingerprint to unlock your phone. And at the same time, we would also want to increase security. So how we actually do that is we are actually replacing something that a person remembers with an asymmetric key. So asymmetric key is a lot harder to infiltrate versus like an SQL database where a list of passwords are actually stored. And that actually reduces credential theft as well because there's no one peeping over your shoulder watching you type your passwords as you enter your corporate applications. So that's where we are actually heading towards in terms of passwordless. So you might be understanding that the industry has many kind of passwordless solutions. So why would you want to start that journey with Duo? Now, first of all, it's actually available in all editions of Duo. So even if you're at the lowest tier of the Duo different editions, which is the MFA edition, you are going to get this passwordless capability with our Duo SSO, as what our Umu has mentioned earlier. It's also a very simple licensing. There isn't anything to top up. All you have to do is be charged based on a per user license, and they can actually use this across multiple devices, multiple platforms, and there's no additional hidden fees to actually set it up. It's basically a configuration that we turn on on the cloud side. On the endpoint device, you definitely need the hardware because the platform authenticators like the Windows Hello or the Touch ID, the hardware has to support the biometrics and the asymmetric key capabilities. And that will actually start you off on the passwordless journey. Today, it might be just your Samuel-based applications. Tomorrow, we will move on to other form factors such as for Windows Logon. And it is actually really easy to deploy and use. The configuration literally takes a few minutes. And for the end user, the UI is actually really intuitive. So for example, if I'm using a Windows Hello on a Windows 10 system, it would be able to detect that I have that capability on my endpoint device. But if I were to switch it over to a Macintosh, then that option is no longer there. So the system is intuitive to understand what kind of hardware-based biometrics is available and allow the users to enroll those form factors. And you can actually roll out in phases because you might want to do a small pilot before you actually roll out to the entire population. So you can actually do it in the phase approach. And it works on many of the devices today, right? Whether it's on a Windows Hello device, Macintosh, we are going to include things like the iOS. So you will be able to do things like a Face ID scan in order to get that passwordless experience. And the users get the option to register multiple devices, right? Today, we know that the average user carries about 2 to 3 devices with them on a daily basis, maybe a tablet or their mobile phones. And they have the options to basically use the device of their choice. And it's also really seamless and secure. So Duo is identity agnostic. So meaning you can use cloud-based kind of identity providers, or you can use your on-prem Active Directory. Those are all supported. And we will have one application for one authentication. So you can actually use things like the Duo mobile app in the future, or you can actually use Windows Hello for each and every single authentication that's happening with our Duo SSO. And in the event that the users on a device that does not support passwordless, we can actually fall back to our very strong multi-factor authentication using the Duo push. So that probably is also something that you would want to evaluate and consider. So some of these password vendors out there, they don't actually have a MFA solution. It's either you go totally passwordless or you don't have a fallback. So that will actually provide a seamless, holistic security access to your apps and data. So let's take a look at the passwordless in terms of how we actually configure it, enrollment, and as well as authentication.
So the first thing that's going to be on screen is I'm going to show you the Duo admin panel. So over here, we actually have the Duo single sign-on. And under the Duo single sign-on, we do have the option of going to passwordless. So basically, enabling passwordless is really simple. We actually click through a wizard where we run through the various steps, and it will actually prompt for things like setting up the Duo Auth proxy on-prem, having the Active Directory as a auth source, and finally we will do a enabling of the policies. So under the policies, we could actually go into our global policies and enable passwordless as an authentication method. So over here, we do have the traditional Duo push notifications, web of N, and you would see that there is the option of doing the passwordless authentication methods here. And we can enable things like the platform authenticators, the roaming authenticators, such as a security key. So this would be enabled on the admin panel. So let's take a look at the enrollment process once we have enabled this for passwordless. So the users could actually go ahead into the Duo Central page. So the users will key in their username and password to log in into the Duo Central. So the first time that they would actually log in, we would have to perform a MFA to verify for identity. So over here, you see the Duo push notification sent to my phone. I will go ahead and approve that push notification. And from this step onwards, we would actually continue and ask the users if they are tired of using passwordless. So we can go ahead and set this up by clicking on continue. So there's a few options here. We could use a Touch ID or a security key. So I'll use a Touch ID on the Mac. So important thing to note here, your information is never shared with Duo or the browsers. So this is to provide assurance to our end users that nothing from your endpoint is actually transmitted in the clear back to our Duo cloud system. And basically, we are verifying cryptographic keys backend in order for this authentication to happen. So you go ahead and click on continue. There's a prompt for a Touch ID, and I'll go ahead and use my fingerprint to scan. Touch ID is added into Duo for this device. We'll continue. And that is all. We will not be asked for passwordless the next time that we sign into our Duo SSO portal. Right, so let's go ahead and from the portal, let's sign out of it. And let's go back and sign into Duo Central, and let's see the experience this time. So users are prompted to key in their email address once again. And this time you notice that there wasn't a password field for me. Instead, I'm actually prompted to actually do a fingerprint scan. So let me show you what's going to happen on my device. I will actually go ahead and scan my fingerprint here. Success. Right. And I'm actually in my portal. So from here, users can go ahead and click on things like Microsoft 365. And what will happen is I'll federate my identity from Duo SSO into Microsoft, and we'll be able to access any kind of Microsoft applications. And that's how easy and seamless it is to basically configure, enroll, and gain access into applications with our Duo SSO solution.
So essentially, that is the end user experience in terms of using the Duo SSO and passwordless in action. Right. So there are actually many ways we actually do authentication. So traditionally, we are using username and password plus MFA into our web applications, into things that are on-prem, such as our VPNs and firewall. So what we are actually trying to do is we're actually trying to simplify the entire process, regardless of which kind of applications users are getting into. We actually use one single gesture to authenticate with different apps and services so that users can access that data. So with additional security in Duo, we can layer on things like device trust. So we can verify if the endpoint device is actually compliant with our security policies, such as we can actually do a health check if the operating system is up to date, if the browser is up to date, and we can install a third-party agent called the Device Health app onto our endpoint devices, and that will actually verify if the device has things like a firewall turned on, or it has basically our anti-malware agents enabled on the endpoint. And at the back end of Duo, we are doing continuous risk detection. So this is based on user behavior analytics. So when the users are deviating out of our security baselines, essentially our back-end security operations team will get notifications, and they can actually deep dive into it, do a double click, and investigate if that is something that is really an incident that requires further action. So that will actually mean a more holistic and a better experience for both our end users and our security operations with this architecture. So passwordless SSO is available in all editions, regardless of whether you're doing your MFA edition, access, or beyond. So this is a really good way to actually start that journey into the passwordless SSO. In the future, we will be adding support for things like your Windows logon, and that will actually enable a more holistic view in terms of your passwordless journey. And let's take a look at why we're actually doing the Duo SSO plus passwordless. So it will dramatically reduce user friction from the authentication processes. It's actually easier to deploy and manage for our IT security professionals. So in the end, there will be fewer authentications and passwordless, meaning that you will have a reduced attack surface area. So this will actually help kickstart your journey with Duo really fast and simple. Plus, you can actually extend that to other use cases in your IT environment for things that may not support passwordless. For example, your Linux logon today, right? So these are use cases that you cover in a more holistic fashion. So with that, you can actually help save time in terms of your security operations, and you can actually save money because you're actually leveraging your existing IT infrastructure without having to do any kind of heavy lifting and changing of the infra, right? So basically, we have a whole bunch of different resources available. We have a couple of blogs about the journey of moving towards passwordless. We actually have documentation on the single sign-on and how that can actually help you to federate your identity into different SAML-based services. Plus, we also have a series of blogs talking about passwordless and the future of authentication and how to make your organization successful in terms of implementing the passwordless in this journey, right? So with that, we will leave you with some of these resources, right? So thank you very much for your time.